We are starting a special podcast series, The Resonant Body, Awakening Healing Through Energy and Essence. And this is going to be episode 1, The BioPhysics of Energy Medicine, How Subtle Energy Affects Cellular and Molecular Function. And I'm so excited for this series to have Dr. Christina Ross to join us. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm happy to be here.
The Resonant Body is a 3-part podcast series where science and spirit is going to converge to illuminate how subtle energy shapes health at every level. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Greenwell, CIH of Bioenergetic Wellness, and this trilogy explores the cutting edge of energy medicine, revealing how frequencies and fields impact the body's structure, emotions, and inner wisdom. Each episode is steeped in conversation and intention. It's paired with a soul-nourishing tea from the Cape Breton Tea Company, and it's inviting you to rest, sip, reflect on the deeper currents of healing that move through us all. So if you haven't got your cup of tea yet, I suggest you make it. Perfect. Thank you, Christina. So episode 1, here we go. Welcome to the Resonant Body. And we're going to begin with the foundation of the biophysics of energy medicine. This is exploring how subtle energy influences the cells and molecular communication for the whole person, and how that invokes the well-being of the person's life and the way that they're functioning. How do cells know what to do? How do they receive signals from the world around them? And how do they receive signals from within us? To guide us into this fascinating space between science and healing is Dr. Christina Ross, who is a biophysicist, an energy medicine expert, and a passionate educator in the field of vibrational health. We're going to look at the mechanisms by which energy modulates cell activity, what that means for emotional and physical resilience, and how we can build conscious self-care routines that harmonize our frequencies. This conversation is accompanied by marvelous Miss Maple, which I was so excited to make today. I haven't had this tea for a little while. This is a black maple tea, which will open the heart to the sweetness of life and will bring the calendula petals in for cellular light and energetic clarity. Before we start, though, let me give you a little bit more about Christina's background so you can understand the way that she thinks about the body and how it comes forward. She's a board-certified polarity practitioner and registered polarity educator, and she bridges the worlds of physics, psychology, and energy medicine. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and physics from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and she earned her PhD in energy medicine from Acoma University. Her doctoral research explored the therapeutic effects of low-frequency pulsed electromagnetic field therapy on inflammation, immune response, and pain biomarkers. I know that was a big mouthful, so as people are listening,
Yes.
it's a lot of information to take in at once, so I hope I said it slow enough. From 2009 to 2021, she worked as a biophysicist at the Wake Forest School of Medicine. And there she studied how subtle electromagnetic signals affect cell communication and signal transduction. Currently, she's consulting with Wake Forest Baptist Health on an NIHRO1 clinical trial. We'll let you explore that in a minute. And she's exploring the PEMF's effects on interstitial cystitis and painful bladder disease. So if we have not piqued your interest with all of the words we've given you so far and the depth that we're going to be diving today, I don't know how much more impressive we can make all those words bring out. Dr. Ross is a trailblazer in translating scientific insight into practical wellness applications, and she offers a powerful lens into the unseen forces that shape our health. Christina, I'm excited for this conversation, and I'm so glad that you've agreed to help shed the light on the energy medicine and the science, because so often they get talked about separately, but you sit in the place of understanding them as a reality with both together, which is so cool. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Happy to do it.
So now, what did you put in your cup today?
Well, today I am drinking a loose leaf cardamom tea. My daughter brought me this tea from Nepal, where she and a group of volunteers climbed the Himalayan hillside to repair an abandoned orphanage. The health benefits of cardamom tea include aiding digestion, lowering blood pressure, improving heart health, and it possesses anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. So here's to good health.
Oh, that's fabulous. And for those that are listening, she's got a great big eye on the front of her
Yeah,
mug.
this is the Greek I for the source of all things. And my girlfriend, one of my best friends is from Athens. She brought me that from Greece.
Lovely,
Yeah,
lovely. And I always enjoy how everybody goes and hugs their mug when they go to describe it, because we all have a connection to the vessel that's holding the tea.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then to be able to remember our friends who do provide us with incredible, I have lots of friendship mugs, is what we call them. So, yeah, beautiful. So, cardamom is such a powerful herb. It is so lovely to play with. Um, and it's in a couple of the blends in the Cape Breton Tea Company. So it provides just that nice, how do I want to say it? Just switches the flavor just a little
Mhm.
bit
It
into
does.
that Asian kind of feel. So I'm going in the opposite direction because I'm going Canadian. So I'm going to
Okay.
maple.
Of course.
And the maple, around here, the maple trees, we never lived here until 2010. And then to have the maples that we could actually watch them tapping the maple trees and
Mhm.
then making the syrup and the sugar shacks and all the stuff you read about in storybooks. And it's like, wow, it is incredible. And it's incredible to see a whole forest of them all hooked up to lines and
Mm,
bringing this lifeblood in. So,
exactly. Good
yeah.
description.
So the one I have today is Marvelous Miss Maple. And this is a black tea. Black tea is known for being grounding and activating energy. It connects us to the earth's deep reserves, and they're definitely coming up from the roots of the trees, and then traveling through the trunk. It supports focus, circulation, and cellular communication, and it mirrors the vitality and complexity of our energy systems. I thought it fit for where you're going to take us today. And if we look at maple, maple goes to our heart chakra. It's our warmth. It brings in gratitude and joy, and it's a symbol of sweetness and alignment. It helps us to savor life and find balance between effort and ease. And I know for a lot of people, to have maple syrup on pancakes or in cookies is a big deal. And I know from here, a lot of people, it travels in suitcases, taking it back to friends and family if they're traveling. Now, calendula petals. I love playing with these. These are about sunshine in a flower because they're usually bright orange or yellow. And it holds properties of cellular cleansing and energetic brightness. It encourages a gentle detoxing on a physical and emotional level. I know people won't think about emotions as detoxing, but it's just such a lovely way to bring in some joy, illuminating a pathway for clear communication with the body. So as we put all this together, we have a nourishment of the nervous system between your cardamom and my maple. And so I'm going to say slange, which is what we say here in Cape Breton. And thank you for being here.
Solange.
Mm. Oh, lovely. All right. So as the listeners are wondering what we're in for, let's break it down into something we can all understand. So, can you talk a little bit about the biophysics, what that means for cells and molecules, and how they communicate? Most people would know that from traditional chemistry, but can you share that?
Yes, well, biophysics is the study of how physics, which is the study of energy, affects biology. And it it really affects it from a cellular level. And the main focus is on energy fields and how they can modulate matter and physiology. And at different levels, depending on the strength of the field and the intensity of the field, you get a healing effect or you can get a toxic effect. Because as we know, high intensity fields like X-rays, ultraviolet, and gamma rays cause cancer, right? But the kind of subtle energy fields that's used in energy medicine are the very healing frequencies and intensities. Now, that's very different than chemistry. Chemistry is a study of molecular function and how it affects matter. And that's really brief. It's more chemical reactions. Subtle energy and wavelengths are information processing systems. The other is a little bit, well, rather largely bigger, as molecules are much bigger than photons that are in light or wavelengths. It's a totally different study of how it affects biology.
Wow, the way you described that's really interesting because I hadn't thought about it that way. And thinking about the subtle body, because a lot of people will say, um, the auric field, we're talking about the auric
Right,
field, so on the outside of the body, and some people say that's the woo-woo stuff. But then it got converted to the term biofield, and
right.
biofield being what is on the outside of the body. And then you have those subtle energies that all interact and bring things in and out of the body.
Right.
Um,
I
yeah.
think people aren't aware of the auric field and the biofield as an information processing system. I like to compare it to Wi-Fi. You know, you can't see Wi-Fi signals going through your house from your modem, your router into your cell phone, but there's a tremendous amount of information that gets exchanged. You can't feel it, you can't see it, but it still processes. And the body, the biological body is the processor of the information going from a person's environment into the cells, tissues, and organs, and even, down into the genetics of the human being. I think once Western medicine, is more aware of how we process information from our environment in a um, in a physics way instead of a chemical way, it's a lot easier to understand how so much information is going in and out of the biofield, and the only way to process is through an energy field or a biofield. Otherwise, there's too much information coming into the system that could be processed in molecular form.
I'm just thinking about AI and that entire network that is blowing up right now with information. And you go back to when we first started with the computers and the tiny bits of information, and then Google being able to find a little bit of information. And just as you put that into the picture of with the body, my goodness, the magnificence of the complexity of what goes on that we can't see, which is much more than even those topics like AI, like computers, like the cell phone that we use every day, assume they're going to work and assume they're going to have all the information we want from them. And then to not think about our body as being even more vibrant and brilliant in its processing.
That's a, that's an excellent example. And I think it's important to point out that when computers first became involved in our daily lives, they processed information in a linear fashion. If you look at AI, there is so much information going in and out of these systems, overlapping constantly. The only way to process it is through quantum field processing. Otherwise, in a linear fashion, it'd be so jumbled up, you couldn't understand what was going on. The body is so sophisticated, and the energy field is so sophisticated, and they work together in such a synchronistic fashion that there's no confusion. The body reacts immediately to its environment and the information coming into it.
Mhm.
And you can also affect it. We'll get into that a little bit later, how a healthy energy field can override a dysfunctional energy field.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about subtle energy and how it interacts with the cell structures and processes. Do you want to take us deeper into that aspect?
Sure. So subtle energy wavelengths refer to the concept of energy fields or forces that exist in the electromagnetic spectrum. And electromagnetic spectrum, as we just talked about, is light. Physicists call it electromagnetism, but high energy states, again, you're talking about gamma rays, X rays, ultraviolet, and then there's a visible light spectrum, which most of us call light, but there's a lot more light than what we can see. There's also infrared, AM, FM radio waves, and then there's these really long wavelengths that are known as subtle energy fields. And medicine describes it as less than 100 hertz, hertz being a cycle per second that the wave undulates. I studied even lower, extra low frequency that are less than 30 hertz because those are the frequency that come out of energy medicine practitioners' hands. That's been studied in two different separate studies. So, in studying these subtle energies, I was able to detect at what frequency the body best responds when it's in an inflammatory state. And excuse me, I studied inflammation because it's involved with so many different diseases and
Mhm.
conditions. And I thought, well, let's touch on the broadest amount of information we can use for healing in subtle energy because so many practitioners they practice different they practice different types of energy medicine depending on the condition of the client.
Mhm.
So what I found was that 5 hertz was the most efficient in affecting or modulating the inflammatory response in the immune system.
5 hertz, that's it.
Mhm. That's it. And as James Oshman, he was one of my mentors on my doctoral committee. He wrote the book Energy Medicine, the Scientific Basis. He said so many chemicals that we take to heal disease are like hitting our cells with a hammer. He said they're very, very sensitive to resonance and vibration, and you don't need a chemical to change their processing system when a feather would work just fine. And that's what subtle energy does. It's just this harmonic wavelength that says, let's release the noise, let's get back into coherence and harmonics in our body.
Wow. I'm thinking about when people ask me at the markets about what tea is good for, and lots of people ask me for inflammation, and they think I'm being facetious when I say everyone, because each one does have its component. But I'm looking at the spiritual essence of those herbs. How do they lift us up? And so as you're describing, you only need 5 hertz. That's what you need is that quality that the herb brings in for living. That's it.
Right?
How simple.
Yeah.
We sure make it complicated,
Well, the most profound things in earth are quite simple, but beautiful.
but beautiful. Yeah, we don't need a hammer. That's that's amazing. I also think about as people are listening, and if they've been following the podcast, I've talked on several occasions about the difference between offering and giving, and how when we try to give, we would be giving more than that 5 hertz. But when we offer, like you said, that softness, that gentleness of just finding that balance again, it's take what you need to find your harmony and leave the rest.
That's right. And that's what the body does, Michelle. I mean, our hands will emit between 0 and 30 hertz. They tend to average frequency between 7 and 8 hertz, but different cells in the body respond to different frequencies. Like bone cells respond really well to 15 hertz. And that's been known for a while. If you want to heal a broken bone that has a difficult time healing, then you put 15 hertz on there. Nerve responds really well to 2 hertz. And cartilage, muscle, all they have their signature characteristic frequency. You don't have to push it on them, it's in the field and they will receive what they need. It's very similar to radio waves. Those different bandwidths of frequency in the atmosphere are all there. You tune into it to receive the frequency that you want to hear, whether it's talk radio, rock, pop, whatever, country. Your bandwidth, the receiver will pick up what the antenna is designed to receive. And your cells are the same way. They have thousands of receptors all over the outside of them. And they will reach out and grab the most healing frequency that they need. And the body's designed to heal itself that way. It seeks health, not disease. It's our environment and the way we think and behave and respond that causes the distortion in the field.
And then comes, what is your attitude? What is, what emotions are you bringing to it? And two, sometimes clients will say, I need this to work, right? Well, if you need it to work, that's gonna come with some force. But if you're just open to the possibility of coming back into balance, even when you say that, it just goes soft and gentle and feels nice. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the subtle field. I wanted to just talk a little bit for people to understand, and you talked about the receptors that the cells have. So they're receiving and interpreting electromagnetic and energetic signals, and we can't perceive that, but they have a knowledge and a way that they bring about that balance. Can you shine a light a little bit more as, some of the people that you've worked with inflammation that they might have noticed, or ways that they might have felt how those cells were changing and adjusting?
Well, I work with a lot of people that have range of motion problems. They have swelling in joints, excuse me, arthritis or osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, even cancer patients, and the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation just cause the body to swell. And so what I studied in the laboratory, and whether I was working with chondrocytes, cartilage cells, or osteoblasts, bone cells, immune cells, is that once you activate them with whatever disease or condition is dysfunctional in the body, they are constantly looking for a way to return to homeostasis. I mean, my body is reacting to this offender or this pathogen because I need to activate my immune system to bring this whole distorted noise, I call disease, back to where it was before the offending pathogen or condition started. Okay, what I found in the laboratory was that the body emits these different signals called cytokines. There are different hormones and growth factors that overexpress because they're telling the body we're under attack. This is not um, what we want, and we're going to get rid of it through different. I won't go too far into inflammation, but different signaling mechanisms that are trying to bring the body back to homeostasis, back into balance. What the electromagnetic field does is it provides a template for the body to follow in order to calm down these immune cell cytokines, signaling cytokines and growth factors, and just bring the body back to where it was in a subtle way. And I spent 15, 18 years studying this, and without fail, never mind what the condition was, it's a matter of bringing the energy, bringing the wavelengths of healing back to where the body can mimic it. So if the body's looking for a healing method, show me the template. And there's a law in physics called superposition, which says when you have noise in a wave and you have a harmonic wave, like when a practitioner is putting his or her hands in the field, the noisy wave will conform to the harmonic wave. the noise cannot distort coherence. The coherence modulates the incoherence. And let me say that again. The noise or the disease does not modulate the healthy wave frequency. The healthy wave frequency modulates the disease. This is designed by nature. God knows what she's doing. And we need to realize that and realize that if your body is sick, it's always looking for a way to heal. What's the best way to go about this is through physics, not chemistry.
Wow. Wow. And I'm thinking about watching The Big Bang Theory, and as they talk about all of their experiments, and you see all the physics mechanisms working. But we've been so led to that diagram that we took in school about how the cell functions and what goes in and out of the cell. It's
Mhm.
fascinating. Wow. And as people are listening, if inflammation is a thing for you, then to realize the subtleness of what's on that outside of the body that could be supporting what's going on the inside. Wow. Okay, so you've touched a little bit then on coherence and resonance, and then the well-being at the molecular level. What if we dive a little bit further then into emotions and thoughts?
Mhm.
Because a lot of people don't realize that anger they're holding on to and keep expressing, or their frustration, or anxiety, as a lot of people are expressing that, um, and suffering from, burnout, as a lot of those terms. How is that affecting cell structure, but how is it also affecting that subtle energy field?
Well, that's a very good question. So there are three main states, this is my opinion, three main states of response to one's environment. There is a sympathetic nervous system response, which your listeners might know as fight, flight, or freeze. And this is I'll go into it a little bit more, but this is basically a fear-based response. There's a parasympathetic nervous system response, which is when you're calm and rested and you can digest your food, reproduce, things that help our race thrive, our species thrive. And and the human race is designed to respond to its environment because you need to protect yourself from danger. And now the third state of being is one that is not very often mentioned in medicine. And it's what I refer to as a meditative state of mind. And this rises the conscious awareness of the human being up out of the body. And it's where you observe what's going on around you, but you don't absorb it. And it's important to be aware of what's going on in order to protect yourself, but don't react. Don't and even worse, don't overreact to it because that can cause more harm than good. So let's take a little bit deeper dive into the sympathetic nervous system. Okay. Fear can be expressed as anger, frustration, depression, anxiety, and even panic. And the reason that we have that is to survive. Because if we didn't react to harmful effects in our environment, we could perish really quickly. Now, what fear does is it upregulates norepinephrine, cortisol, dopamine, and other stress hormones and neurotransmitters that's designed to slow down the digestion process and and push oxygen and blood to our muscles and help us run away from the danger. Okay. Now, if you actually live in a harmful environment, and for instance, if you live in a bad neighborhood where crime is high, or you're a victim of domestic violence, or you have never felt like you were supported with food, clothing, shelter, things you need to survive, you're going to be in sympathetic nervous system mode almost all the time. You won't even be able to sleep very well. And so these molecules constantly flooding through your body will eventually lead to burnout. And this is a basic cause of fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, and of course, even cancer, where your cells will start to metastasize just in order to survive. And so basically what it brings about is a death sooner than you would normally have without this environment. Okay, parasympathetic nervous system is driven primarily by a chemical messenger known as acetylcholine. And nitric oxide is a byproduct. And what you find with these molecules is that people, they feel calm and relaxed. Nitric oxide is emitted during the mating process, nursing process, and is important to survival because it plays a role in what's known as hugging or cuddling. That's what I call it, the hugging or the cuddling hormone. And studies have shown that babies who are not held or cuddled do not thrive. And so it's important to have these molecules in your body just to feel safe. And people who don't feel safe don't live as long. I mean, that's just a fact. Okay, this third state of being affects cellular function in what I call a meditative state of mind. It's a relaxed state of consciousness that you usually can achieve um, through meditation or being out in nature. Uh, Trees, the earth, they all emit hormones to communicate to each other. Um, I mean, a lot of people don't know this. If there's a fire in the brush, animals and cells, I mean, these are plant cells, communicate with each other. The danger is coming. Um, let's see, what else can I say? State of being reflects a deep relaxation. It helps provide a heightened focus. So you're just in the present. You're not thinking about regrets about the past and you're not worried about the future. You don't have anxiety. You're right here, right now. And your breath slows down. You feel inner peace. You reduce the mind chatter. Uh, there's a lot more clarity in the way you listen and speak. And our cells, tissues, and organs respond to this level of consciousness. It's the maximum functioning capacity for health when you're in that state of being.
Wow. Wow. I'm thinking about what you said near the beginning as you started to explain that in the taking on of what's going on in your environment. So if you're in a stressful environment and you start to bring it in, and I just wanted to bring to that because I've also talked about that in a couple of podcasts about the difference between empathy, sympathy, and compassion. Because that empathy, sympathy piece, people don't always realize. The friend comes to tell you the stress in their lives, and then we bring it in and we take it as our own. And we worry about them because we think that's how caring happens. And what it in effect does is increase that inflammation and that frequency that's going to lower the well-being of the system.
Absolutely.
So I just want to point out to people, compassion allows you to understand what's going on, but to put the power back into the person's hand. So it's not you that's taking it on, but it's them feeling like you've cared for them. And it's just by being there and present and, how can I help you? Or in what way can we find you the help you need? So
Yes,
just
and
put that.
it's important to be a rock. They're not looking for somebody who's going into emotional instability. They're looking for a rock, somebody that holds their center. And like you said, how can I help? What do you need? But doesn't take on that emotional instability. And that makes them feel safer.
Hmm. Hmm. So I just wanted to bring clarity to that. As some people have had said to me in some of the client sessions, I'm not a good person if I'm not feeling that for them. And it was like, no. You want to be solid for them so that you can do your best, but also so that your cell structure can find its resonance, so that their cell structure can find its resonance. Um, yeah, beautiful. Okay, so if we go to those emotion, thoughts, and beliefs, and we look at what you've said about all the chemical reactions, it's if you're not being mindful or present in the day, and if you're finding that you've got those monkey thoughts running through, you're creating that disharmony, and then that sets you up for those lower frequencies that come into the subtle field.
Exactly. That's a good point because harmonic frequencies, healthy frequencies, are higher frequencies, not necessarily intense, more intense. They're more subtle and they have long wavelengths, which makes them soft. And just like a tuning fork, you know, I've seen tuning forks help align the octaves of the different chakras, and they align to different colors in the chakras. What your body is looking for when it's out of balance is where can I come back into balance based on an octave or a sound frequency that aligns with me as my higher self. And this, to me, this isn't rocket science. I mean, disease takes you out of balance. Bringing the body back into balance is the only way it can heal itself. And it doesn't just address the symptoms of the condition or the disease, it heals the disease. We don't hear that very often. Oh, I'm going to give you a drug, it's going to heal your disease. No, it's usually to treat the symptoms because Western medicine doesn't understand what causes disease in the first place. 95% of diseases don't have a known etiology. I wrote about it in a book that I wrote. And once you understand that the physics is out of balance, and so you go back to the source of the imbalance and you reset it back to homeostasis, there is no disease. This just seems so clear to me as a physicist, but I'm not an MD, so I don't think, biochemistry. I think biophysics.
Right.
And my hope, my drive, my passion is that Western medicine will understand the physics of medicine one day.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely adore how you're describing that, because so often we end up, it's like it's butting heads between the energy medicine and the medical model. And it isn't. It's just a matter of speaking two different languages, and then how those languages can come together, and then the beauty when they're working together, because my goodness, we're getting closer to the magnificence of what it is to be a
Well,
living
and
being.
I don't think energy medicines wish to replace chemical medicine, Western medicine, any more than Einstein wished to replace Isaac Newton's theories. He added on to them, which opened up a whole new world of observation of the universe. And that's my point. We're not going to replace what we already established and known. Chemical medicine makes sense to a certain degree, but once you understand the entire human being, body, mind, and spirit, then you realize how the body becomes sick, what causes disease. Imbalances in the energy is what causes disease. Then, once you know the etiology of the disease, then you can cure diseases.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, I'm going to invite people as they're listening, sip on your tea. Take a moment and just let that all sink in, but also just take that moment of mindfulness and presence to just sit with that knowledge that things can be curable if we're looking at how we bring things back into balance and harmony. Okay, so that then takes us to, how could we take this knowledge, put it in the hands of the listeners, into some kind of a self-care routine or some ideas that can bring alignment and understanding of energy and communication?
Well, I found a lot of benefit in a regular practice. Well, I do yoga 3 times a week, but I also sit with deep breathing exercises. The breath controls the energy flow. So if you're panicked, anxious, you're going to have very shallow breathing. And most of us only fill our lung capacity about 25%. When you actually fill your lung capacity 70, 80, 90% and hold that so that the body can absorb that oxygen, it feeds your cells, tissues, and organs. It gives them more chi, life energy. Also, if you're not real efficient in your own meditative practice, there's a lot of really good guided meditations online. Find the one that resonates with you. Does the voice of the guide feel good when you listen to it? Is this something that you could listen to it for 10, 15, 20 minutes without getting restless? Find something that fits your energy style. And if you can't regulate a high energy, anxious state into a calmer state on your own, I would highly recommend guided meditation. Mantras, a lot of people find that mantras say, I am peaceful. Not I want to feel peaceful, I am peaceful. There's a certain resonance to that. I am calm. I am um, happy. Happy, saying the word happy has a certain frequency. So, not that you want to be, not in the future, right now. I feel peace. Also, visualization practices. There's a lot of people that have visualization boards. What things in life would make me feel the most beneficial, make me feel the most able to give to others without depleting my own sources, things like that. Um, and pay attention to physical sensations in different parts of your body. As a practitioner, when I put my hands in the field of a client, we can feel if energy is stuck or stagnant or not flowing. I mean, people that don't speak their truth often have a fifth chakra or throat chakra that's moving very slowly or even jammed. They have sore throats or they cough a lot to try to get that energy going so they can speak their truth. People that suffer from migraines often have anger that's not released. I'm not talking about a volcanic explosion. I'm talking about not holding in anger inappropriately, expressing certain boundaries, expressing your rights and your feelings in an appropriate manner. I mean, the body reflects physiologically what is going on energetically. And that's how energy medicine practitioners move and shift and change the energy flow to bring the body and the mind and the spirit back to optimal health.
Mhm. Mhm. I was thinking about for me to sit and meditate can be a challenge. Just sitting because I love to move. So I'm just inviting those people that are listening that if you've tried to sit to do meditation and that hasn't been your thing, then Tai Chi is a great way to do a moving meditation that can create that same atmosphere while you are opening and closing the body and finding ways to bring the balance and flow through the movement. So I'll just invite you to that. So there's a lot of programs that are available and accessible, and and then it's so important to be putting that in your day. And I had somebody who said they wait until Saturday, they wait until the end of the week, and then they treat themselves to their special tea. And I said, what would happen if you started Monday with that special tea and you opened your week with that? And she kind of looked at me and stunned. And I'm not sure what she was choosing to do all during the week, except maybe a cup of coffee that came out of the coffee maker, that didn't have love attached to it. And but I'm just inviting people to think about what does your day change like when you've opened with this kind of idea? Or how does it change when you've been in a difficult situation and you actually remove yourself, take the time to bring yourself back into balance and let go of whatever needs to let go, and then move on to the next thing instead of just quickly moving to the next thing and think I'll come back to it. But by that time, your body's already brought in the anguish and the stress and the feelings, and that's already shifted what's going on with the energy. Yeah. Wow. Okay, so if we go, I'm just going to bring Marvelous Miss Maple into the conversation. You can bring cardamom in, and the ability to cultivate joy and sweetness in a daily ritual like tea drinking. Could you talk a little bit about the cells and the energetic health? Just what happens, what people might be able to notice as their awareness when they've done these activities for a little bit, and then it starts to shift for them.
Well, yes, this is a very interesting topic because drinking tea is an art. I did tea ceremony in Tokyo several years ago, and it is a ritual. And the way that they bless the tea and put love in the tea and take the time to do uh, tea ceremony was in itself a meditation. And this ritual of tea drinking is best done in a peaceful environment. Take care when you prepare your tea to put love into the leaves. I drink loose leaf and bag, but you can still, when you open the bag or you put the leaves in the tea caddy, I mean the tea, what do you call this
The
thing?
infuser.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tea infuser, that you put love into them and into the water, whether you're using a tea kettle or another heating source. Bless the water and the heat that generates to make the beverage. It's all a part of it. Then before you sip, smell the drink. How does it resonate with you? When I smell the cardamom, there's there's this earthy herbal essence to it, but it's kind of overwritten by a citrusy aftertaste. And that just brings joy to my heart. The color of the tea and the liquid and even the shape and color of your mug all contribute to the health and enjoyment of the tea. Take that time for yourself. That helps the tea and the beverage sync up with you and your energy for optimal enjoyment.
For those who can't see, I'm saying thank you. I've got my hands together. Christina, thank you for expressing it so beautifully. Because I tried to bring that across with tea, but it's lovely when somebody else says it and brings it forward. And even to be able to put the herbs in your hand and hold them, because a lot of times we do just take them out of the paper that they're wrapped in and then dip them into the cup and move on to something else, but actually holding on to them.
Mhm.
See what you feel. And from an awareness perspective, just holding those herbs, you might find that all of a sudden your lower back lets go. Or you might find that you stand a little bit taller or you take a deep breath, a sigh.
Right.
And that's that subtle energy making that connection and being present with it. The same
Exactly.
as stepping out into the grass.
Mhm.
And as soon as your feet hit the grass, what does that feel like? How does your body respond? And that's the instant shifting that starts to happen. All right. Is there anything we missed?
Not in this episode.
Oh my goodness. I'm just so excited to have the dialogue, but also to have the vocabulary for people to start to think about the difference between physics, biophysics, chemistry, biology. How are all these pieces coming together, and in what way have we been thinking about our health? And is it because that's the way it was taught to us and we don't know anything else? And is it because we haven't sought out anything different to help us with our challenge? And so we're just trying to solve things in this tiny little network that we have with only what we've experienced so far. And if people start to realize there's more out there, there's other ways to look at it, different viewpoints, how might those start to accumulate and change the perspective of what you're looking for, how you react to things? and knowing that you only need 5 hertz and how powerful your hands are. For those that do healing touch, therapeutic touch, Reiki, amazing, amazing results. And with those hand modalities, people seek them out when they're in the oncology wards having their cancer treatment, but they wait until then to finally be exposed to them and to know that that's available for now, every day. And
Right.
you don't have to be sick with symptoms that are so large that then you seek it out, but you can just do it because you want to feel better today.
That's right.
And they're available. All right. So I'll need to add that to the notes, some of those links as well. Okay, Christina, thank you so much for this
Oh, you're welcome.
conversation. And
My pleasure.
we have 2 more conversations to dive deeper and in different ways. So I hope that as people are listening, they kind of just make a mark for coming back to the Greenwell Center blog to find out when the next episode's been released, or to check it out on your favorite podcast channel. So thank you so much. So as we close this first chapter of the Resonant Body, we're reminded that our cells are listening, not just to the nutrients, not to medication, but to our thoughts, our feelings, the energetic environment around us. Subtle energy isn't an abstract concept, it's a language. It's a language about life, and we have the ability to listen. Thank you to Dr. Christina Ross for sharing her wisdom and helping us translate science into soulful, supportive practice. And may you carry forward the sweetness of today's tea and the resonance of self-awareness as you build your own rituals for healing. In our next episode, we're going to explore quantum change and the flow of the biofield. And this will go from chakra alignment to deep vibrational center knowing at the ultrasonic core. So I hope that's enticing for those of you listening. Until then, drink deeply, live gently, and listen to the subtle energy within. Be well.